Hey guys, it's Roscoe on the Space Couch. Today I want to continue talking about asteroid mining. Today we're going to talk about Planetary Resources. Now, they're another one of these asteroid space mining companies. Now, they were set up in 2010, originally known as Arcade Astronautics, until 2012 when they took their current name. Like Deep Space Industries, they're trying to invent the tech that's necessary for these sorts of ventures. Now, initially they intend to deploy small space telescopes, not quite nano or CubeSats, but in that same sort of vein, you know, to help locate suitable targets, as well as for Earth observation. Now, they had intended to launch their first hardware, the Arcade 3, which was a prototype of their upcoming Arcade 100. But unfortunately, it was destroyed when the rocket it was on, the Orbital Sciences Antares, exploded in October 2014. Now, as bad as a blow as that was, it's not a knockout killer punch for this company. They're going to be launching their Arcade 100 later this year, and that's the first of their ships that's going to have an optical telescope, but not the last. Now, they've got some backers with some seriously deep pockets at Planetary Resources. James Cameron, the director, Larry Page and Eric Schmidt from Google. You know how deep Google's pockets are. Ross Perot Jr., Bechtel Corp, amongst others. They've also raised $1.5 million from Kickstarter. It's planning this campaign where take a selfie of yourself, it will upload it to the spacecraft and then retake it with Earth in the background, so you'll have a space selfie. Now, I expect there will be a fee for that, obviously, but maybe the Kickstarter contributors would get that for free, I'm not sure. It's also received an investment from a company called 3D Systems Corp, which, as you can probably guess from the name, is one of those 3D printing companies that's cropping up everywhere now. Obviously, that sort of technology is going to be very useful in space, so teaming up with these guys to make sure that it is going to be successful, I guess. Now, like everyone else in the new space industry, they want their vehicles to be as low cost as possible, and that's great because you don't want to build some behemoth that costs $1 billion. It'll never go anywhere. To keep up with the low cost, they're planning on 3D printing the entire frame of the Arcade 300 spacecraft, for instance, as well as doing as much of the work in-house as possible, like SpaceX, to keep the costs down. Now, their plan is in several stages. To start, survey and analyse any nearby asteroids to determine if they'll be worth mining in the long term. That's what their space telescopes are based for, although obviously if they're going to be used for Earth observation they will have multiple uses. Next stage, send survey probes out to the selected asteroids for further in-depth analysis and scanning, as well as, say, sample return missions. Why are NASA doing them again? That does seem like something the private sector could handle for itself, because they would actually want to go there, see if there's anything worth mining. Unlike NASA, where they're just going there because they're told to, because they don't know what else they're supposed to be doing. However, ultimately, this is obviously Planetary Resources, they want to set up fully automated mining processing operations on some of these asteroids, like Deep Space Industries are planning. As well as they want the ability to move their products away from the microgravity foundries to Earth, or wherever they're needed in any of the Lagrange points perhaps, or wherever their mining operations based perhaps. They also want the ability, it's quite a sensible one to have, to be able to redirect asteroids. Obviously, particularly to move them to a better orbit for exploitation, and also learn how to deflect anything that might be coming towards Earth, any hazardous object perhaps. So yes, that's definitely a necessary skill. So their spacecraft. The Arcade 100, that's like a low Earth orbit space telescope. The 200 is the Interceptor. That's what will physically go to the asteroid, probably as part of a fleet, to gather data on that target asteroid. Now, the 300 should be able to explore throughout the inner solar system. It's got a bigger propulsion system. It'll have a bigger suite of instruments. Also, this is the sort of thing perhaps that the Dragon Lab version of the Dragon capsule might be good for at some point. Just packing it with instruments, sending it off into the depths of the solar system, who knows. So anyway, the 300, that's essentially would be doing to any asteroid what Rosetta did to Comet 67P, essentially. Circle it, probe it, take measurements. It's a sign, I guess, that those types of enterprises are moving out of the government sphere and into the commercial arena. I assume the next time there's a comet being landed on, it will be by a corporation rather than a government agency. So it does seem like we're getting to a critical point now with a lot of these companies. Planetary Resources, Deep Space Industries, SpaceX, Bigelow Aerospace, and all the others, I've mentioned that that co-opetition previously, that concept. These companies could all work with each other as well as, say, competing with each other, because they do have, at this stage, many points of interest. I don't know that the cake is large or if it's small, but there's no need to be squabbling over everything, probably. I reckon both Planetary Resources and Deep Space Industries could be customers of the Bigelow habitats. For instance, in the Bigelow promo video, there is a habitat that is fitted with space telescopes. And obviously in the Deep Space Industries promo vid, there's those giant inflatable, expandable habitats attached to the asteroids, so we'll see. SpaceX probably be grateful for a few rest stops on the way to Mars once that route is up and running. Obviously at first it's probably just going to be non-stop, but you might want to break it up, I guess, stretch your legs as it were. Those actual way stations, fuel depots, whatever, much longer down the line, they could actually end up becoming destinations in their own right. Cities in space, all that sort of thing. We shall see. Exciting days ahead, no doubt. In 100 years' time, will these companies still be around? They could be the household names of the future. Anyway, guys, that was just my introduction to asteroid mining and planetary resources. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. Leave me a comment or a suggestion for an upcoming topic you'd like to see discussed, or hit that like button.